Hi, I'm Barry Zwarenstein, and today what I wanted to talk to you about was to create a bit of understanding of what I call operational neuroscience. I find if we use terms around the brain with many people will be talking about frontal cortex, limbic system, amygdala, folk are going, excuse me, this is really not making sense. So what I try and do is keep it really simple and use operational terms. And by using these terms, I think it's easy for you to understand how your brain works and why things happen the way they do. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is just how the brain works. Okay, so if we imagine this is the brain, and that this part is very much the brain stem, back of the brain, where it comes into your head. This is the front of the brain. So let's imagine your eyes as being here. This frontal part is very much the part that you engage with in counseling. It's the part that you engage with whenever you have to plan, organize, think, understand, intellectualize. It's this part of the brain you use to gain clarity over emotion. So for example, you might be in the street, a car backfires, the back part of your brain goes, gunfire hit the ground, you've had a bit of therapy, front of your brain immediately kicks in and goes, no, it's okay, you're in the main road of a city, it's just a car backfiring, you do not need to go into alert. So it immediately uses an understanding to disengage you from an emotional reaction. Road rage, for example, is where the back of the brain literally kicks up to such an extent that there's no blood flow to the front of the brain. So at that point in time, you're just in raw emotion, and there's not a chance in heaven that you're going to be able to even think or rationalize. It's almost as if you may have had this experience where you see yourself going down, you're revving up and reacting at your friend or in a shopping center or somebody, it could be your wife, your kids, and a part of you is looking at this and going, geez, I'm not doing too good here, but you can't stop. That's because back of the brain is kicked up, no blood flow to the front, and it's what I call you're on a runaway gun at that point in time. Now, therapy, generally the talking cure, engages the front part of the brain. Okay. Now, if you imagine the front part as being an OP, from an OP, you've got a broad view of many things, but you can't get into things in detail. You have to be on the ground to really get into it. So it's the part that observes, plans, monitors, records. It's the thinking part of ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that counseling or therapy just gets stuck into thinking. We know that in counseling you're going to experience emotion. We know that you're going to deal with deeper issues, and that through engaging in this process, we know that it has a huge impact on healing. So it's what I call the relational component. It's the talking component with another human being. A critical part of healing. I think without that it's very difficult to actually progress through whatever you're carrying. Now, when we move away from the front part of the brain and we go more into this part here, which is the back part, of which the front part kind of enfolds. So it's not readily acceptable. It's not readily accessible. And if you think about it, I call this part the ambush zone or the killing zone. Now, for those of you that have been through quite traumatic experiences, you might have lost a mate on operations, you might have seen terrible things, you might have experienced overwhelming things. And look, it doesn't even have to be with operations. It could be in life, post-operations, or you may be a civilian watching this. You may have had a terrible loss, a divorce, a collapse, something. You may have been hijacked, you may have been physically attacked, sexually abused, whatever it is. You are carrying the trauma of that memory. It's like a body blow. It doesn't sit here, it sits in your body, it sits in the back of your brain. And generally there's a part of ourselves that goes, I'm not going to get into the killing zone, because if I get into the killing zone, I'm going to go into overwhelm and I'm not going to come out of it. So there's a protection. However, what we know in my book, I talk about claymores in rooms. And the reason I use the metaphor of the claymore is we can lock things away in a room, but there's no ways it's going to go away. It sits and it accumulates energy. It starts to intrude, and I often think with aging, all these claymores, the HE, the frag grenades, everything that we've just simply put away and not wanted to get close, they sit there ticking away like a time bomb. And I think aging brings us in, or a sudden collapse, or a sudden level of adversity, or something which replicates something from our past can really throw us into it. So, for example, over the years, guys have come to see me and I've gone, what's happening? Well, my wife just had an affair, there was a massive betrayal, and it just threw me back into something that happened when they were in Vietnam, Iraq, or Afghanistan. So imagine that part that's in a room as a kind of resonance, and if something in our present replicates that resonance, it triggers the present, triggers the past. So it comes out the door in a big way. So the challenge then is, how do we get to this? Now, there's lots of modalities, masses of modalities. And I'm not really here to stand judgment on any modality, but I can tell you that there are a couple of things that I really like. I think one of my goals is that when folk come and see me, I like them to go away and be able to use something. It's what I call a pull-through. After the first session with me, it's great if you've got a pull-through that cleans your barrel, that stops you getting stoppages, that stops you having an AD, that stops you having a runaway gun. And so I send guys away with a couple of things. The one thing I really like is a technique called tapping. And if you look on the banners, one of the 4 banners at the top of my website, you'll see there's a banner which just says tools. Go through that. That's actually the combination of everything I take the guys through, and they can select 1, 2, 3, 4, or all of them. And they cover a whole range of more body-based things. And I'll talk more a bit about that in a while. And you'll see tapping there. You'll see some videos by Brad Yates, who's amazing. He's one of America's top EFT or tapping practitioner. And play with that a little bit. See if it works. I mean, my experience with the guys who've used that is that when they're using that regularly at home, they describe the most incredible impact on feeling like they're more in their bodies, less upregulated, less freaked, less stressed, less angry, and less reactive. When you've done that for a while, have a look at the bottom right-hand side of my website, and you'll see a link to a thing called BattleTap. So BattleTap is attached to the whole tapping organization, but it's more driven specifically towards a military kind of environment, although it could be used by anyone. And what I love about BattleTap is that you can start to create your own sayings, your own language, which it incorporates into a tapping sequence. Now, if you're looking at this at the moment going, what the hell is tapping? Do me a favor, just pause this, open the website, and look at Brad Yates' explanation of tapping. So I don't have to go into that now. You can always just stop, pause, and then come back and carry on listening to what I have to say. You'll see there's breathing. You'll see there's techniques from energy medicine, where bilateral crossing overs and body-based things, which also have a massive impact. So have a look. It's worth it, and it also empowers you. So you don't want to always have to wait till you get in to see somebody to feel that you're working on stuff. There's stuff you can do between sessions and certainly throughout the rest of your life. And the things I've put up are the things that I use all the time anyway, personally. The other thing I really love, and I'm busy doing the training on it at the moment, is brain spotting. But that's not a technique that you can use, but I will be putting a tab on with brain spotting and some videos and understandings of that. I'd encourage you to have a look at that. You may want to find if there's a brain spotting practitioner in your area, or you may find other modalities that people recommend for you. But that's okay. I'm just giving you the things that I really like, that I spent a long time looking at, because a part of my vision is, how can I work with people without putting them into or re-traumatizing them or really re-freaking them out. As veterans, you've had enough trauma, you've seen enough challenging things. Let's look at a more gentler way of healing, where you lead the way, you're not told what to do. The thing for me is that if we understand that everything is energy stored in the body, bringing it up, absolutely, you're going to feel pain, loss, grief, guilt, but those emotions are not going to kill you, and you need to walk through those emotions if you're going to heal. They're the emotions that are here. It's not even so much about processing memory, for example, the loss of a mate in an ambush. It's about where do you feel it in your body and working on what's happening in your body. So, look, have a look at brain spotting, do some research, have a look at tapping, get out there, talk to people, go to your veteran centers, see what they've got. But the main thing today was just so you have an understanding of the relationship between the OP and the ambush or killing zone. That you can't ignore one or the other. And where a modality ignores this, so you spend years and years and years and years just talking and talking and talking, which is more around the frontal cortex, this part of the brain, the OP part. You don't have to spend years. I'm not saying sometimes long term is important, but you also need to get to this. You need to get to your killing zone. The place you want to avoid, you can get to in a way where you do not feel overwhelmed. So just remember the brain, OP, ambush, and your journey is to integrate the two and heal. Okay, so great talking to you all. I'll come up with new things. Again, what I always say is do me a favor, get on my website, send me a voice message, send me an email. All the capabilities are there, and let me know if there's something specific that you want to deal with. There are links to the Instagram, there are links to the YouTube channel, there are links to the Facebook Barry Zwarenstein author group. It's all there. There's no cost involved. You want to buy the book, you don't want to buy the book, that's seriously cool with me. There's sections on the banners, you can look at that. But the goal of what I'm doing is to really provide a service, which is what I have been doing for 15 years. Alright, so wishing you all well, take care, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.